watching the Sports Political channel LB. I'm his contributor. If you're not a subscriber to this channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share these videos on your social media platforms. Let's get down to business. So, Bertans last week was traded from the Washington Wizards to the Dallas Mavericks. Now, this move, along with the Wizards acquiring Kristaps Porzingis, the Mavericks acquiring Spencer Dinwiddie. This move was made because Bradley Beal was out for the season. He has had a left wrist injury, which requires surgery, and like I said, he's going to be out for the season. Now, Kristaps Porzingis has yet to play a game for the Washington Wizards, and we'll see his debut after the break. But upon being traded from the Wizards to the Dallas Mavericks, Bertans let the cat out of the bag as to why the Washington Wizards were struggling after such a hot start. Because remember, they were 10-3 at one point to start the season. They were one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference. There was early talk about possibly Wes Unseld Jr. being Coach of the Year. I know I've done those videos, right? But the ship has sailed on that notion, and the Wizards look like they're about to hit the reset button. Now, what's up, Courtney Washington? Salute to you, my brother. Good to see you. Everybody in the building. Appreciate y'all for being up in here. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, share your videos and all that. All right, let's get down to business, right? Now, since that 10-3 start, they went like 16-27 or something like that. And they forced, and they had to make some trades and stuff like that, right? Now, Bertans signed a 5-year, $80 million deal with the Wizards after being acquired from the San Antonio Spurs. Because remember, he was a sharpshooter for the Spurs, and he signed that 5-year, $80 million deal, right? Now, this is what Bertans said in regarding to the locker room of the Washington Wizards, because players that get traded, players that retire and things of that nature, they normally like to let the cat out of the bag as to what happened. Why did the cookie crumble after such a promising start? He says this, not my words, his words. It's tough to have chemistry when every single day the team is basically fighting with each other about, I want to get more minutes and I want a bigger role. That was probably the biggest part of the struggles for most guys during the season. That kind of early on that doesn't show up because everybody's trying to figure out what's going on. Once it starts going downhill, it's really hard to turn around and stop going up again. Now, you mix this with reports that the Wizards wanted to move Dinwiddie because he looked like a shell of himself, leading to his teammates not wanting him there, makes the outside of those closed Wizards doors reek of something lethal. Then they go on to talk about how the most entitled players you come across are the young ones coming off winning a title. And this is where the LeBron James factor comes in. They say if LeBron hasn't constantly restricted their rules to trade them away to one of the younger, similarly hungry teams, then this would never be happening. In all seriousness, the additions of Kyle Kuzma, Caldwell Pope, Montrezl Harrell for Russell Westbrook should have been a good thing on the Wizards' behalf. It was. Some of the ex-Lakers were even taking photo shots or pot shots at the once prestigious franchise. Because remember, when the Wizards had a hot start, you had Kyle Kuzma trolling the Lakers about how the Wizards had a better record than them and all that stuff. That early success got to their heads. But the Wizards slowly retreated down to LA's level. Both have 26 wins apiece. Well, the Wizards got 27 wins now. Making those jokes age like newly acquired Kristaps Porzingis' knees. But unbeknownst to newcomers, trying to be the big fish in Washington's small pond is not easier than being the big dog in LA's massive yard. So you have Rui Hashimura coming back from injury, and then you had Thomas Bryant coming back from injury because remember he suffered the ACL tear last year, and then Daniel Gafford was making strides, and all of a sudden now Daniel Gafford's out the rotation, and then you had Montrezl Harrell, who was fighting them amongst his teammates, more specifically Caldwell Pope, right? And I told y'all it was only a matter of when and not if they was going to trade away Montrezl Harrell. Remember, undersized um, player on the block. He's a high energy player, but he's undersized and not a good defender. And that was exposed when he was a member of the Clippers, and they played inside the bubble, and the Denver Nuggets were destroying Montrezl Harrell through pick and rolls and all that, right? Plus, Wizards management had a feeling that Montrezl Harrell wasn't going to stay, so that's part of the reason why they traded him away. Now, Bradley Beal is due for a contract extension at the end of the year. Now, he has made it clear that he wants the max. Now, this is the problem with Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal is a scoring dependent player. He's a high volume, scoring dependent type of player. Bradley Beal has never been known to go out there and get rebounds. He's never been known to go out there be one of the league leaders in assists. He's never been known to be one of those players that, go out there and, be a guy that goes out there and, plays elite defense and, gets steals and blocks and all that. He's very scoring dependent. That means his value is tied to scoring, which means he's going to be chucking the ball a lot. So for everybody that was all bent out of shit about why Bradley Beal is not an all-star and all that, look, I like Bradley Beal, but the truth of the matter is Bradley Beal doesn't make anybody better. That's the truth. Now, if you will call me a hater for saying that, then, whatever. It is what it is. I own it, right? Because had Bradley Beal had making people better, right? Why don't the Wizards maintain their hot start to begin the season when everybody was out there grumbling and mumbling and pouting and shouting about more minutes or about having a bigger role and all that, man? Bradley Beal's the team leader. He should be one that stopped putting in all that bullshit. These motherfuckers out here fighting like hoes over minutes and roles and all that instead of just going out there playing team basketball because everybody trying to get their shine on. So I don't blame LeBron. I know people might say, "Oh, this might be the LeBron effect," but this Bradley Beal's team. This is what he wanted. This is Bradley Beal's team. Bradley Beal should have been the one that checked all that bullshit at the door. Motherfuckers out there complaining about minutes and motherfuckers that complaining about roles and all that, man. That ain't the time, man. We trying to win a championship. Nobody trying to hear you bitch and moan about minutes and roles and all that. You earn that by your play. And just because you had one or two good games don't mean that you earn the right or the privilege of getting a bigger role or having more minutes. And this is how things implode from within. This is how the fish rots from the head down. When you got people out here feeling that, oh, I had one or two good games and all that, so that means I should get more minutes and I should get a bigger role. And that, I don't know why the coach not seeing that. I'm trying to get paid in the off season and all that. They put all this bullshit in front of the actual goal, which is to win. And Wes Unseld Jr. has a challenge on his hands because he's trying to implement a culture. And you got to have players that are willing to buy into that culture. And if players are not willing to buy in the culture, they're not willing to buy in the coach's vision, then it's not going to work. And how it doesn't work is when you got players that feel that they're bigger than what they really are. And Bradley Beal being the team leader should have checked all that bullshit at the door. Because the truth of the matter is, if you're really as important as you think you are, you wouldn't have gotten traded. If you were as important as you think you were, you would not have gotten traded. And that's just the truth of the matter. Now, I alluded to in a previous video about how the Wizards could not afford to fuck around with Bradley Beal as he contemplates his future. I alluded to that, and I stand by that. Now, he's been very vocal about wanting the max deal. Now, my spider senses tell me that the Wizards are willing to give him a max deal to keep him there. But at what cost? Because if we really tell the truth about the matter, right? Ever since John Wall left the Wizards, right? Whether it be from an ACL injury, whether it be from a him getting traded or whatever like that, right? The Wizards has not done anything with Bradley Beal being the number one guy. They haven't done anything. When it comes to like making the playoffs, can't check that box. And you definitely can't say they won championships with Bradley Beal as the leader of the team and all that. So my thing is, look, if you're trying to have the culture, right? If you're trying to establish this new culture in DC, right? You got to have players that's willing to sacrifice their individual self for the greater good, right? Cause ain't that what y'all brought in Wes Unseld Jr. for, and all and the new GM Tommy Shepard, right? Y'all brought them in to establish a culture and all that. What's up, Jacob Jennings? And you can't have people in there fighting about minutes and role. And I probably with everything that came out about that, right? With Davis Bertans let out the bag, I'm having on good faith that Montrezl Harrell was one of those people that was complaining about minutes, that was complaining about roles and all that. Because remember, he was one of the ones that was splitting time with Daniel Gafford. He was splitting time with Daniel Gafford down on the block. And Daniel Gafford, to his credit, he was making the most of his time on the court. So if you use the process of elimination, right? Well, it can't be Kuzma complaining about minutes and roles because his was secure. Can't Caldwell Pope was too. Who else? What's up, Prince Wire? Salute. Wasn't Dinwiddie. Dinwiddie minutes was secure. The problem we had with Dinwiddie is Dinwiddie and Bradley Beal couldn't mesh on the court together. It was only when either when Bradley Beal was out or when what's his face was out, uh Dinwiddie, is when either one of them got off. So there were chemistry issues there, but it wasn't Dinwiddie complaining about minutes. His minutes were secure. He was playing over 30 minutes. Obviously, Bradley Beal being the leader of the team, you know, his minutes was secure. So it wasn't. So I got it on good faith. It was Montrezl Harrell that was running around, you know, spouting off about minutes and role and all that other stuff. Because his minutes was all over the place. 1 minute he would play one game he'll play about 25 minutes. Another game he was playing 19 minutes. It would have to take an injury to Daniel Gafford for Montrez to see the 30 minutes and all that. And then you got the teammates not liking Dinwiddie. Dinwiddie even admitted to this himself in a post-game press conference when he tried to assert the Wizards was on a losing streak. He tried to call himself asserting his leadership onto the guys, and the guys flat out rejected him. So this is how fish rots from the head down, right? When you got grown-ass men complaining about minutes, complaining about roles, not liking this person, not liking that person. Oh, he hate me. You had infighting. You literally had a fist fight at halftime during one of the games where Montrezl Harrell didn't get a pass from Caldwell Pope. Caldwell Pope shot the ball and missed it, and they went into halftime. I think it was the game against OKC that the fisticuffs went off at halftime. So when you have all that going on, they're not focused on the game. They're not focused on the game plan. They're not focused on the task at hand. Everybody on there, as soon as somebody misses a shot, you see the body language, motherfuckers throwing their hands up in the air, exasperated, all that other shit. And not focused on the goddamn task at hand. And they going out here losing games. So now, with the two problem kids out the window, right? They got a new problem. So they bring in Kristaps Porzingis. Now, as much as we talk shit about Anthony Davis being soft, well, goddamn it, we need to shine the light on Kristaps Porzingis, because this motherfucker, if Anthony Davis is a Charmin Knight, well, goddamn it, Kristaps Porzingis is Cottonelle, all right? Because this motherfucker right here, man, he stayed getting hurt too. So I remember when the homie LVZ asked me if I was excited about the move about Kristaps Porzingis. I'm like, no. I'm not excited about that move. For what? The motherfucker can't, for what, he can't even get on the court because he too hurt. And then when he on the court, motherfucker got there 7-3 getting this dump block by Robert Covington and of all people. Now, I ain't here to shit on Robert Covington because he's a hell of a defender, but come on, Porzingis, you 7-3. You can't have nobody 6'7" blocking your fucking dunks if you 7'3". Come on now. But back to the Wizards, man. They got a lot of questions they need to answer in the offseason. Should they pay Bradley Beal the max he's looking for, even though his leadership style has not really translated to wins? It hasn't, right? I know everybody be up in arms. I know, remember last year where in the All-Star break, Wizards was like 16-33. And people was like up in arms about why Bradley Beal's not an All-Star, despite the fact he was one of the league leading scorers. But the team was losing. It'll be one thing if your points were the benefactor of the Wizards would be the benefactor of all these wins if Bradley Beal scored all those points. But the thing was, Bradley Beal was scoring all those points and the Wizards were not winning. So that's, and then just because you get a team's paying you a max contract, that don't necessarily mean you're an all-star. It just means that you're just overpaid. That's all that is. Case in point, on the Milwaukee Bucks, Chris Middleton got a max contract, right? They gave him the max contract over Malcolm Brogdon, which prompted the signing trade from Milwaukee to Indiana, right? So is even though Chris Middleton is a two-time All-Star, but are people looking at Chris Middleton on that level? No. And that reared its ugly head in the game against Portland when Giannis Antetokounmpo was out. They was on the front end of a back-to-back. Giannis was out, and what ended up happening? They end up losing to the Portland Trailblazers, right? Last night in the game against the Philadelphia 76ers, right? Who did not show up in that game, which allowed Philadelphia to win? Giannis did his part, but the person who was supposed to be Batman and Chris Middleton did not. So there you go. But anyway, back on the Wizards. This team got a lot of questions to answer, right? After the All-Star break. Now, Wes Unseld Jr., as the rookie coach, got to find a way to turn this thing around. Because Portland has shown that, hey, we can trade away these players here and we can go on a nice little winning streak because the players are buying into the coach's vision. Now, one thing we hadn't talked about nearly enough is these players that's getting these contracts, but yet they're not living up to these contracts, and yet they let their ego get in the way of the whole team concept. They're not listening to the coach. They're always complaining about the coach. Coach doing this, coach doing that. And yes, there's some degree the coach being at fault based on the dumbass decisions that the coach has or hasn't made or whatever like that. Yeah, there might be some merit to it. But at the same time, players out there sometimes don't be listening to their coach, man. That's fucked up too. How many times have we heard players? We heard a coach called this play and oh boy didn't go out. We just didn't execute. I wonder why you didn't execute. Because you got motherfuckers out there with egos think they can go out there and do their own thing, and that they since they're on the court, they're out there. They're the ones got to dribble the ball. They're the ones got to put the ball in the basket. They know better than the coach. So they feel the need to, I'm not doing that play. What the fuck is coach talking about? I'm not doing that shit. I'm gonna do this play. Right? So that's one thing that hadn't been talked about enough. You see it with the good teams and you see it with the bad teams. But you see it on the bad teams more often than not. But yeah, Portland, man, Chauncey Billups got them boys playing basketball, man. And I'm going to talk about them on another video. I'm going to talk about the Portland Trailblazers in another video. Because he got them playing basketball. So, yeah. And this ain't nothing new, right? Just like Prince Wyatt alluded to, right? There was beef within the Wizards camp when John Wall and Bradley Beal was there, right? So I'm starting to wonder about Bradley Beal, considering that this is not the first dance around the barn when it comes to chemistry issues. Remember, John Wall and Bradley Beal had beef in DC when they were together. Now they might have put on the front on TV because of course you're not going to throw your teammate under the bus in front of the media. Why would you do that, right? But all in all, behind the scenes, there was some deep-rooted beef going on between John Wall and Bradley Beal, right? And then the Russell Westbrook incident, right? Remember, Russell Westbrook tried to get Bradley Beal traded? He tried to convince Bradley Beal to request a trade. And that was all the speculation running rampant about where Bradley Beal was going to go, if he was going to stay, and all this other stuff. And then you get Dinwiddie in here, and then Dinwiddie and Bradley Beal got team chemistry issues. So, look, I'm a mathematician, right? I love math. And one component in math is the common denominator, right? When you're dealing with fractions and shit like that, right? You always got to find a common denominator. And all these scenarios all these scenarios that's been talked about, Bradley Beal has been the common denominator in all these scenarios. Now, if I'm the Wizards, right, you seeing that despite the fact that you guys promised a culture change, Bradley Beal has not been the answer to that culture change. So, if you're really being honest with yourself, he wants a supermax, right? He wants the supermax deal, right? But Bradley Beal has not been the answer into that rebuild, into that culture change. So I got a question, right? And I'm being really honest about this, right? Why would you even pursue giving Bradley Beal a supermax deal? One, he is not fully committed to you guys, right? Even though you guys showing y'all commitment to him, and the moves that y'all were making were trying to show Bradley Beal that, hey, we're really serious about winning. But Bradley Beal's play hasn't changed. His leadership style hasn't changed. Y'all making changes around him, but his leadership, his stuff hasn't changed. And it has not resulted, him not changing has resulted in the culture not changing. So why would you pay him a max deal? And I got to shout out the one LVZ, if you because he and I talked about this, and he brought up an interesting point. Because I did a video, I say about 9-10 months ago, about Damian Lillard and Bradley Beal staying with their respective teams, right? And I was going off the angle that they were there for loyalty and they were willing to do whatever, right? And he brought up the point that they only were staying there for money. And when he mentioned that, I had to I didn't think about it at the time because I thought they were just there to be loyal and all that. But now you're starting to see that, oh, there's trade rumors around Damian Lillard. Now you're starting to see trade rumors around Bradley Beal. So was it really about loyalty or was it really about money? And that your loyalty is only tied to the highest bidder. But the team has not gotten any better. So my thing is this, right? And I'm gonna ask this question again. If everything around you change personnel, you change coaches, you change GMs, right? To establish a new culture, right? So everything around Bradley Beal has changed. But his game hasn't changed. Because remember, earlier in the stream, I alluded to the fact that he's scoring dependent, right? But he ain't getting no rebounds. He ain't facilitating no offense, right? He's just looking to get his shot, right? If you're scoring 31 points and going 7 to 30 for it, then is that really making the goddamn Wizards any better? So why would they pay you the fucking max deal? You ain't going to All-Star games. You're not up for any awards individually, whether it be MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Most Improved Player. You're not getting none of that. The team hasn't gotten any better. So why would they pay you the max, the super max? If anything, I let Bradley Beal walk and take my chances somewhere else. Because he has shown that he is not willing to commit to you, even though you've shown a willingness to commit to him, because he wants to test free agency because, this is my first time being a free agent, and I want to go out there and play the field. Okay, bye. So, and to a degree that what you might be saying is true, Prince Wire. It might be true to an extent because he did sign that 2-year extension a couple years ago. But I raise the question now because we're in the same situation. The Wizards are not winning. It looked promising at first, but the cookie crumbled. And now we learn why the cookie crumbled. And as the team leader, right, even though you're not there, even though you're not actively playing, but just because you're not actively playing does not mean that you shouldn't take an active role in the team and steering the team in the direction it needs to go. Yeah, he did take a while to sign that extension. He did. He pussyfooted around there. Now I think now that I think about all this in real time, because you get my thought process in real time as I'm talking this out. Is there a possibility Bradley Beal leaves the Wizards and goes somewhere else to call himself trying to win? Because there's that possibility too. Now I gotta look at the Wizards salary cap situation. That'll be for another video where we're gonna examine the Wizards salary cap situation, and we can get an idea as who might be staying, who might be leaving, stuff like that, right? Who might be leaving via free agency or getting a trade or something like that. So that'll be for another video. But right now, the Wizards are out of the playoff picture even after that hot start to the season, right? They're currently out of the playoff picture. Now they got a game against the Lakers next month. I think it's like March 25th or something like that. Now I plan on going to that game. I'm gonna have to call my dealer and see what kind of ticket prices they're offering. But I do plan on being at that game. I think that game is a Saturday night in DC. Yeah, I think I might have to take a trip up there and watch that dang game. But anyway, we'll break all that down as the season when the season ends. There's 24 games left in the regular season. Um and now, since we on here right now, before I leave, let's look at the Wizards schedule real quick. Okay. So when things pick back up next week, they got the San Antonio Spurs at home. Matter of fact, they'll be on the back-to-back in 3 games. Yeah. Let me see. Sorry, it's taking a little bit longer than I anticipated to load this shit. But they're home against the Spurs, and then they go to Cleveland the next night on the 26th. March 1st, they're at home against the Detroit Pistons. March 4th, they're at home. That's a Friday game against the Atlanta Hawks. I think that's supposed to be a really good game. And then they got so they got like a 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 of their first 5 games after the break are at home, but the only road game going against the Cleveland Cavaliers. They close out their homestand against the Indiana Pacers on March 6th. Then on March 9th, they go to LA to play the Clippers, and then they turn around March 11th to play the Lakers. March 12th, they go to Portland to play the Trailblazers, and then on March 14th, they go play the Golden State Warriors out west. So they got a 1, 2, 3, 4. They got a 4-game road trip out west. They come back home on March 16th for the Denver Nuggets, and they go back on the road to play the Knicks on the 18th of March. And then so the game's March 19th, they come back and play the Lakers at home in DC. That's a Saturday night game. I plan on going to that. Then they go to Toronto, they go to Houston on March 21st. They go to Milwaukee on March 24th, go to Detroit on March 25th, and then on March 27th, that's a Sunday, they're home against the Golden State Warriors. March 29th, they're home against the Chicago Bulls, right? A team that they've lost 3 games already to this season. March 30th, they play the Orlando Magic, and then on April 1st, they welcome the Dallas Mavericks. That's gonna be a really good game because that might be goddamn on Kristaps Porzingis' revenge game. And then at that point, they have 5 games left. They go to Boston on the 3rd. They go to Minnesota on the 5th of April. On the 6th of April, they go to Atlanta. Their final home game of the season is against the New York Knicks on the 8th of April. And then on the 10th of April, they conclude the season against the Charlotte Hornets. So that's not an easy stretch, and that's and those last couple games between the Hornets and the Wizards, we should have a good idea whether or not the Wizards will even make the play-in game. Because if they make the play-in game, they're gonna have to go on the road. If they make that play-in game. Now, all right, in case you haven't heard my thoughts on the play-in game, I don't like it. I don't like the play-in game. As far as I'm concerned, you had 82 games to determine who can make the playoffs or not. You don't need an extra 1 or 2 games to make that determination. when you've already had 82 games to determine that. But nevertheless, those are my thoughts on it. You guys let me know what y'all think about the state of the Washington Wizards. Smash the like, hit the subscribe, man. Leave a comment in the comment section if you think Bradley Beal should leave or the Wizards should try to re-sign him, or what you think will happen to Bradley Beal. Tell me what you guys think. You know, I subscribe to this channel. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share these videos, and last but not least, shouts out to the untouchable, unguardable LDBC, Lions Den basketball community. This your man. Scream at me. Hey!